Today's topic: how time zones hide flat Earth. Welcome to my $5 studio, and as you see, no water heater. Today we will have a look at a really silly flat Earth video and its slightly new take on flat Earth. And who is today's flat Earth fool? The topic is, as I said, how time zones hide flat Earth. Can anyone guess who it is? Let's move to another location. Welcome to my outdoor studio, and today I have a special guest, Icy. Let's start with looking at the video. The video is from the Flat Earth Fool, Taboo Conspiracy, and once again he used the sailor from Switzerland as his expert. Very, very expert. Let's start the video.
Hello everyone. We're going to hear another awesome presentation by Hervé Riboni. As a quick introduction, Hervé sailed around the world as a participant in the 1993 through 94 Whitbread race, which also put Hervé at the 50th south latitude, where he circumnavigated our flat Earth. Hervé has sailed over 100,000 nautical miles and crossed the Atlantic 8 times. To summarize Hervé's presentation, if the globe were real, there should be roughly 24 time zones matching the pathway of the sun in relation to the rotation of the Earth as shown in this illustration. There should be 24 time zones in the north and 24 time zones in the south. These time zones should roughly match longitude lines, and the distances between these time zones should be equal in the north and south at the same latitude. I think everyone can pretty much understand that. Unknown to nearly everyone, this illustration here is misleading and doesn't match reality because there are actually 19 time zones in the north and 32 time zones in the south. That certainly doesn't make sense under the globe. So why are there more time zones in the south than in the north? It is because the Earth is flat. Under a flat Earth, the 24-hour time zones, like longitude lines, would continually spread out as the time zones move from north to south, as shown here. To hide this fact, the conspirators added extra time zones and half-hour time zones in the south and took away time zones in the north. For example, that is why you can have 4 time zones in the continental United States and 2 in Australia, even though they are about the same width. Time zones hide our flat Earth reality. Anyways, let's get to Hervé's presentation. Please remember that a lot of time and effort goes into these presentations and no one makes any money on this. I also want to thank Florian Mitchell for helping with the translation. Thank you.
Bonjour, mon nom est Hervé Riboni. Je suis platiste depuis 7 ans.
So, US and Australia is in the same size. But is this a flat Earth map? If you look at this one, that I think is quite close to a flat Earth map. Is US and Australia the same size? Why would there be 24 time zones? I think Icy will come back to that part. The reason why countries have a bigger part of their countries with the same time zone and some have a quite narrow time zones is because it's more practical to have the same time zone in different part of the country. But countries like US, Russia and so on are so big, so it's not practical to have the same time zone in the whole country. I think it's time to Icy's explanation a bit about why do we have time zones and the history of it. Let's listen to Icy.
The use of so-called true solar time was the practice over large parts of the world before the mechanical clock made its entrance, and it was then mainly sundials and similar devices that were used. These indicated the sun's position on the sky through the shadow that resulted from the construction of the sundial and, interestingly enough, sundials are believed to be the earliest astronomical measuring instrument. The oldest, known sundials have the form of tall stone pillars, so-called obelisks, and they have been found in Egypt and are said to date to about 3,500 years before our era. Notable for solar time is that it only indicates local time because it is the position of the sun at the exact location measured that is meant. Over time, more time instruments were developed, with everything from the hourglass, which is believed to have originated shortly before our time reckoning, to the increasingly accurate mechanical clocks of the Middle Ages. During the beginning of the 19th century, clocks were more accurate than ever and their use became more and more widespread. However, they were still set according to the time when the sun was highest in the sky, so-called true solar time, or the time when it was calculated to be highest in the sky, so-called mean solar time. With this, the time in different cities was still local, because the Earth's locations are located on different meridians, and then the position of the sun, and thus the local time, is connected with the rotation of the Earth around its own axis. In practice, this meant that each town during the 19th century calculated the time according to the exact meridian on which the town was located, and in this way the clock could differ several minutes in time from the clock in the nearest town. Once the railway became more established and used extensively, local time started to become a bit of a problem. Of course, the trains went between different towns, just as they do today, but when the town's clocks differed, time indications could be a scourge. Local time differs by approximately 4 minutes per longitude worldwide, and as an example of this, the local time between Gothenburg and Stockholm therefore differs by approximately 24 minutes, as there are approximately 6 degrees of longitude between them. In response to this problem, one of England's railway companies was the first to introduce so-called railway time. In 1847, this time indication was launched, which showed the same time for the whole country and which was based on Greenwich Mean Time, GMT, or simply Greenwich Time. This was thus a kind of standard time or zone time, which came to be widespread over the majority of Great Britain in the following years, although it was not enacted into law until much later. The country in the world believed to have been the first to introduce a uniform standard time was New Zealand, then a British colony, which introduced a common time zone in 1868. After the introduction of railway time, it was common to have clocks showing both local time and railway time. As internationalization increased, the natural step was to also try to arrive at an international standard. As early as 1879, the Scottish-born Canadian Sir Sandford Fleming proposed a system that divided the Earth into different time zones, which would have the meridian in Greenwich as a starting point. The choice came naturally as it was already widely used in, among other things, traffic at sea, but France opposed this proposal and continued to use the Paris meridian for a long time. However, Fleming's proposal seems to have finally worked out well, as basically all countries in the world used some type of time zone at the beginning of the 20th century.
Thank you, Icy. So that is the history of time zones. So real sun time is when the sun is in the south, then the clock is 12. But as you had the example in her presentation, the distance between Stockholm and Gothenburg in Sweden, they are not in the time zone, but Sweden is not a big country. If you move east to west, you will get in a new sun time zone quite fast, or all the time. So it's very easy to debunk this statement from Taboo and this sailor, you only need a compass and a clock. Oh dear, so stupid. That was all for this video. Once again, thank you all helping Ukraine. We're close to raised money for buying one more drone. So far I've sent 21 and 5 powerbanks, but soon I will be able to send number 22. So if you want to help, please use PayPal. This was the video. It was a shorter one, but I think it was quite funny because it shows how damn stupid Taboo Conspiracy is and how damn stupid this Swiss man, this so-called sailor is. This is hilarious. I will be back tomorrow. Hope to see you then. Have a nice day. Bye.